I don't know how to start.
Do you know, things like Merry Meet, Welcome to Season 3.
Merry Meet?
Yeah, whatever it is.
Someone's been reading the internet.
I have been.
Yeah. Welcome to Season 3. We don't have to Merry Meet.
See things,
it's fine.
Things like that. Say things like your Magenta crew's back in the hell. I don't know.
Welcome back. You came back.
I did. I came back. Season 2 was not enough to drive me away.
Oh well, that's good.
Yeah.
I am glad because I thought I was losing you at the end of the one about astral magic. You, I think, had to go and lie down and put a cold towel on your head.
It's quite possible. I think I may have blanked that one from my memory.
Oh no.
Yeah, sorry. Purged it.
Well, we'll probably talk more about astral magic in season 3 and stuff because, you know, it is our bag or whatever, mostly here. So, but we're talking today about, is magic selfish? Is that it? What is it? What are we doing?
Your topics.
Oh.
Yes. Is using magic for personal gain, is that a bad thing? Is it a good thing? Is it a somewhere in between thing?
Yeah, we are.
That's where we're going.
So,
And we're really well prepared.
like ever.
And up for it.
Brilliant. We should probably mention that if anyone hasn't, for whatever reason, no judgment here, but if anyone has not seen or heard season 2,
I recommend hearing over seeing.
but if you haven't seen or heard season 2, you can get that anywhere you get podcasts, which I'm assuming you're quite good at because you've found this one. So well done. And it's also on our website. So all the video versions are on our website, magentaschoolofmagick.com. And that's where we get all of our topics.
Yep. And all of the audio versions are on things like Spotify and all of the usual places. And as I said, recommend the audio if you can, because then you don't have to look at me in my various football shirts and the like. So
Yeah, so tell me about your football shirt. It would just go down a rabbit hole of what we're wearing. And
well, this is, I said I would wear, in season 2, I was wearing one from St Pauli On Sea, which is a fan group of a German second division team, because I like niche, but they're very progressive, and the fan group shirt I was wearing before was one against the concept of illegal immigration. It said
no one is illegal.
No one is illegal, exactly. So, you know, asylum seekers and the like should be treated fairly. And I said that they had more kind of shirts, and they had one for equality and promoting or the acceptance of LGBTQ plus type organisations, and making football a safe space for people who identify as homosexual or non-binary, bisexual or whatever, and making them feel welcome. And they have a shirt which is "Love is Love" on the shirt for that one, and it's got all of the various different colours and shapes for the different flags.
We should probably point out that this podcast is not sponsored by St Pauli On Sea.
It's not sponsored by St Pauli On Sea.
But, you know, if you want to, you could sponsor us. If you if you don't mind our hot garbage.
A Southend based fan club for a German second division football team sponsors a magic podcast.
Yeah, it could happen.
It could happen.
But yeah, it probably won't. But yeah,
probably not after my garbled explanations of what the shirts are and what they're doing. So yeah.
Yeah, but we're not sponsored. We just like talking about your handful of shirts that you've got. Yeah.
But I did. I promised in season 2 that I would wear. I was getting another one, and I would wear it. So here we are for the season 3.
Lovely. Whereas I just put any old shit on like usual.
Yeah, I had noticed.
I don't care.
Do you want to talk about magic?
Yeah, let's get into the episode. So, can you use magic for personal gain? That's the idea, isn't it? And as ever, we will overlay this with examples found in pop culture where they get it wrong and where it's kind of aligned, and that's kind of how we roll here.
Yeah, and there are, I think, quite a few examples in pop culture, and many of them seem to suggest that it's not a good thing. There's comeback if you are using magic for personal gain. I mean, I don't actually remember Bewitched, the TV show, properly, although I'm pretty sure as a sitcom that was mostly using magic for personal gain for comedic effect, and everything worked out all right in the end. But more modern ones like Charmed, Buffy, The Craft, even Supernatural, that sort of stuff. It's kind of like, there are repercussions if you're using your magic for personal reasons.
Yeah.
Personal gain.
Yeah. But when it comes to how it works in not Hollywood, it's fine, I would suggest. I don't think...
Sounds like a short episode.
Well, just talking about Buffy, where it's Willow who's the magic person, and I think the repercussions for her are that she ends up... am I going to get in trouble with spoilers?
It was
from something
a long time ago.
1990s.
Spoilers for those of you who haven't and do intend to watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah. So Willow she tries to destroy the world, essentially.
Yeah, but the repercussions start long before that in pop culture. So she's using it for personal gain. She gets called out for it. She tries to erase her partner's memory so she can continue to use magic and not have had that conversation, which obviously backfires because it would. And she's actually starting to lose her partner. That relationship is falling apart.
Yeah.
Long before, spoilers, the event that drives her to madness, where she actually loses her partner permanently, and then she kind of reacts, and the dark magic that she uses takes hold of her, and
and that's the thing, they make it so that it's corrupting her, like using magic is what corrupts her.
Yes, but it's a different kind of magic. So I think it's interesting because the distinction that they kind of make inadvertently or on purpose is that she moves into a sort of a darker magic to get vengeance on the people that caused the death of her loved one. They don't really delve into the fact that actually the good magic that she was using was already causing all of these problems and actually driving her partner away and breaking that relationship up. Anyway, they focus very much on the no, she's using the dark hold type magic, exactly. Yeah, it's not obviously because it's a different show, but that's the kind of thing. Is like she's tapping into, like she's gone into the forbidden section of the library kind of thing.
She literally does.
Yeah,
go into the forbidden section
and that's what turns her. That's the bad thing. But then I think, is it thereafter that she sort of goes into this whole, no, actually I was a magic addict and I need kind of rehabilitation type thing, and it was causing problems before I went into it. But they don't really don't delve into that too much, I don't remember.
No.
Before she goes Dark Willow.
Yeah, although she does have to go into this 12-step program with Giles at the end and get weaned off. She has to be weaned off. Yeah. Magic.
Because it's become a shortcut, hasn't it? It's so easy for her to just do everyday stuff. And I think that's part of the point of the arguments that they were having, was that she wasn't just living her life, she was just using magic for everything.
Yeah.
Too much personal gain. A little personal gain is fine. It's got to be done in moderation.
Everything in moderation. Yeah, but that seems to be the consistent theme, like with Charmed as well. Like, they make this whole thing about, you can't use magic for personal gain. And I think in Wicca, which is a magical religion, the Wiccans also have this rule of 3, that whatever you put out there will come back 3 times, whether that's good energy or bad energy.
And that's prevalent in the craft as well, isn't it? That's
the
whole point. Although bizarrely, having watched that recently, it doesn't really come back on them. Because they go through this whole, you're using it and it will come back on you 3-fold.
Yeah.
Like, well, does it really? Because, well, hang on.
There was a lot of death in there.
There was, right. But so their primary motivation across the 4 girls is, again, it's using it for vengeance. So they're using it for negative purposes, although I would argue that getting revenge on racist people is probably, not
fair game.
not a bad thing at all.
Yes.
But there's only one of them, the main character, Nancy, kind of descends properly into madness and starts to really struggle, and it's too much, and then it starts to, but even then it doesn't backfire on her per se. It's that the other character, Sarah, is also powerful and more powerful than her, and able to kind of bind her and put her, ultimately she ends up in a mental hospital. So that has come back on it, but that's more someone else is doing stuff to her, not that there are other repercussions. The other 2, well, nothing happens to them. The only bad thing that happens to them is that Sarah puts like a glamour on them and makes them think, oh no, bad things are happening, but they're not actually happening. And then we see them at the end all happy and skippy, if a little scared of the fact that Sarah still has powers. So I'm not sure they even followed their own rules in that film.
The whole story narrative
exactly.
kind of fell apart. But I think there is, what is it, like a fable, like message that runs through all of these shows. It's that magic is bad and you shouldn't use it, look, all this stuff will happen to you.
Touched on where that came from in the last
we did,
season, didn't we?
The one where is magic evil or something.
Yeah, the one where the patriarchy is responsible for everything.
Of course.
Boo.
Yeah, boo.
Yeah.
All right, so magic for personal gain. I was gonna just take it to Charmed for a hot minute.
Sure, go for it.
Because the entire this is old Charmed, by the way, not new Charmed.
OG Charmed.
OG Charmed, yes, exactly. Original from the 90s. For anyone who hasn't seen it, soz, spoilers. But in there, every other episode, they are using magic for personal gain, whether it's finding their keys or finding relationships or fixing the harmony within the 3 of them, whatever it is. And ultimately it has the repercussion of it strips one of them of their magic, so they can't like have magic powers. It's just the interesting thing about that is that they go to the tribunal. There's all men, obviously. And they decree that one of them has been using magic for personal gain. They all have. They do it all the time. And they pick on the younger one and they strip her of her magic powers. And that's it. She gets 1 power back, but it's the shit one that she never bothers controlling anyway. She never bothers to learn how to use it properly. So she only gets this 1 power back. And that's it. That's it forever. So I just don't understand. Well, that seems extra mean. But it's almost like, but in the world of Charm, they have this rule. And then they followed it through with the consequence, but it only applied to one of them. And all it did was make her life harder. She couldn't fight the evil things that they have to fight as effectively. And I know it was a what is it, like a narrative construct. But it just felt pointless. Like, but that's not how it is really in the real world. And I know that that's not what they care about when they do a TV show. But it's just another example of using magic for personal gain will generally have a negative impact on you as the practitioner. And oh, look, what happens here is you could end up losing your ability completely. And that feels like it's the made up rule of the people that come along and decree what you can and can't do in magic. Do you know what I mean?
Like when the white men put their robes on and said to the lady at the end of the road, no, what you're doing is evil. What I'm doing is noble and worthwhile. Yeah. And therefore I'm going to burn you and I'm going to just be held in high esteem.
Okay, so from how magic is usually practiced in the world today and not Hollywood, I would argue that it's fine to use it for personal gain. In fact, it's probably better that you're only using it for yourself and not trying to change other people, would be my suggestion. So, if you don't want to use magic for personal gain, then what are you using magic for? I would have to kind of ask that question, like what you're trying to do with it.
Yeah, okay, that's an interesting distinction between so how you view personal gain seems to be important, because you're saying it's, you know, you can do stuff for yourself, that's fine, but you can't do stuff to affect other people. But for someone, like trying to make someone else fall in love with them, for example, as is the old Hollywood trope, that's for personal gain, but that affects someone else. So it's that drawing of a line, I think, is quite important, isn't it? Yeah,
and then we're getting into like ethics and stuff as well there. I think where does something that is positive for me, at what point does it tip over into being negative for someone else? You mean,
if I'm trying to get a promotion, someone else is trying to get that promotion, I use magic to help me, that's a negative outcome for someone else.
But isn't it more in the way you've worded your request? Because do you remember in the one about the psychology of magic, where we talk about that you're putting something out there and you need to look for those opportunities to make the thing happen. So if you're putting something out there and the way that you put it out there is using your I statements, I want, rather than they can't have.
What if your I statement is, I want to crush my enemies, I want to make them pay, I want everyone to look at me and go, yeah, he's the best.
Fair enough.
I appreciate that's kind of tipping over into
megalomania. Exactly. This is where you become a Marvel villain.
This is my origin story. No, but that's true, and it's less I want this promotion, it's more I want career progression. And then, as you say, you look for the opportunities and the things, the signs that are there. It's like, oh, actually I asked for career progression, I asked for the opportunity, and here is a promotion that I'm perfectly suited for.
Yeah.
That's not the same as I want this specific job and to hell with anyone else who's going for it.
But some people can have that in kind of like, I mean,
that's what we all think anyway.
Well, yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. But magic is a tool in the same way that if you're lucky enough to afford expensive courses and postgraduate degrees and stuff and all of that stuff, that is open to everybody who you know can afford that, in the same way that magic is open to everybody who wants to use it. So it's just a tool, like a book or a course or a podcast.
Yeah, I thought you put that in your article about this, which I thought was quite an interesting comparison analogy, because I hadn't really thought about it like that, because people see, and Hollywood teaches us, that magic is a shortcut. I think one of the examples you used is kind of like, you know, if you learn a craft like woodworking or something like that, and you can then use it to build your own furniture or whatever, how is that different from learning magic and then using that to put yourself in a position to do something? Or to, it's the same. I'm using the skill set that's available to me, that I've trained myself for a positive outcome and to make my life easier. I don't have to spend money getting a contractor in to build stuff for me because I've taught myself how to do it. That sort of thing. Yeah, which I thought was really interesting because I think it's so ingrained in pop culture that it's a shortcut. It's not something you've worked for. It's not something you've trained for per se. It's a quick win route and you're missing out all of the steps that you're supposed to.
So you're missing out the hard work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's so dumb because magic is not a shortcut. You still have to do the hard work, I'm afraid. It's not like Hollywood, bippity boppity boo. There you go, you've turned your pumpkin into a Mercedes or whatever. There are other cars. I want to be able to click my fingers and wiggle your nose.
I can't wiggle my nose. It has to be a finger click. But I think that's the point, isn't it? So I hadn't really thought of it previously as like a trade almost.
It is a trade because that's where it comes from. This is, back in the day, like wibbly wobbly. Let's go back in time, and it was usually the old crone at the end of the road that would give you your herb bundle to help with your headache. You literally cross her palm with silver and you get some magical talisman. It was a way for women to make money. That was just the thing. And then obviously along come a bunch of white men in robes say, no, you can't have that now. That's bad. We get to have it.
And we're going to do some chanting. We're going to do some chanting. And we're going to have some big fancy houses. So
it was a trade until such time as history said magic is evil and you can't have that anymore. But so I believe it is a trade. It's a tool, it's a skill. You learn how to do it, and then literally the world is your oyster.
So let's talk about intent and moderation, because I think we've got into that a little bit with your I statements, certain types of I statements. I want to rule the world versus I would like opportunities for betterment, that sort of thing. So is it a case of it's not the magic that's bad if you're using it for personal gain, it's the intention behind it, it's the person who's using it, that sort of thing, that has the capacity for...
Yeah, potentially, because magic in and of itself, it's just a tool. Like a knife is just a tool. In a chef's hands, it could be a good thing. In a murderer's hands, that's good.
Is murder a trade?
I don't know. Murder for hire.
Murder for hire, yeah.
So that, I guess, I'm not sure they stab people though, because that's a bit personal. Anyway, I like murder shows. What can I say? Murder shows and comfy clothes.
That's the one.
But yeah, we can talk about that on my imaginary murder show podcast, which
there aren't enough of those.
So magic is a tool essentially, and you use it either for positive outcomes or less positive outcomes, which sort of bleeds into the kind of magic where you get in, it's a bit grey, and that's all that kind of banishing and binding stuff. So with the example from The Craft where Sarah binds Nancy, I would argue that she's binding Nancy for not just protection of herself, but she's trying to protect Nancy and others around her.
Oh yeah, she says quite clearly, bind you so you can't do harm to yourself or to other people.
Yeah.
It's not a kind of, I'm just trying to put you in a box in like a prison or something. Although she does end up in a padded room.
She does.
So.
But, I mean, depending on your ethical lens of which you see the world, you could look at that as, well, that is all entirely for Sarah's benefit because she was getting her ass kicked by Nancy. So that's why she did it. True.
Although binding in pop culture is generally, I think, it's the reverse of how they show magic in general. So magic for personal gain is seen as a bad thing, but binding in pop culture is generally used to prevent someone or something. So it's like, Supernatural, they're forever binding demons or witches or whomever to prevent them from doing stuff.
Yeah.
It's just like every other show. That's what they're all just bound someone over there, and it's to prevent harm. So it's kind of weird because actually in the real world, binding yourself to someone or binding something to you could have negative outcomes.
Yeah. I had bound myself to someone in the past. Yeah. And then when that relationship ended, I naturally assumed that's that. This was back in the day when I was young and less ethical about things. So this was a long time ago.
I think I can hear the phone. I need to.
So long time ago.
Dark magenta.
Yes, exactly. When I was young and starting out and didn't really have an ethical framework, I was like, well, do we ever when we're teenagers? Anything goes, right? Mm-hmm. So I bound myself to this individual, and that relationship did end, and I didn't think anything of it until, got to be 15, 20 years later, a letter arrives telling me that because we had owned a house together, I was due some money. So that connection had lasted all that time because I had bound myself. Just because the relationship ended, I still had a financial connection that I hadn't even realised to that person. I have now released myself from this person, so they should never interfere with my life ever again.
Not sure that tells the story of negative consequences.
Don't you think that's negative?
What, that you got some money randomly a few years later because you were bound to some dude when you were younger?
Well,
yeah, that's really terrible.
It's not great for them, though, was it?
Well, no. I suppose
having to share their money with me.
Oh, you evil genius.
Exactly. But, that unintended consequence is more like a negative consequence of being bound to a person. Same, you can bind yourself to your stuff as well, like your keys, so that you don't lose stuff and that sort of thing. But binding I have learned that it's probably not a great idea to bind yourself to someone, though, because you kind of are shackled to that person unless you perform a release to go with it.
Fair enough. So I think it's interesting, though. So we should probably, for people who aren't familiar with the concept of binding and that sort of stuff, because you bound yourself to this person in your relationship. Now, that's not the same as saying this relationship will last forever, we will always be happy, we will always be in love. That's not what a binding spell is it?
No. It's literally a connection, either a spiritual connection. In my case, it was a financial connection, but I hadn't realised that's what it was. I think my intention was that it would be an emotional connection. But as you know, it's almost impossible to be able to make somebody do something just because you've cast a spell. You can't control someone else. Yeah. They're free to make... That's the whole point of free will.
Yeah, so the point is that binding yourself to someone with their consent doesn't mean your relationship's not going to fall apart.
No, it doesn't. It just means that the connection will continue beyond the relationship, if possible, through some other mechanism. Maybe it's like a custody arrangement, for example. If you've got children with them, but the relationship breaks down, you've obviously still got like that connection, or it's a financial one, or it's some other material connection. Maybe you can't move out as rapidly as you would hope, and it all of these unintended consequences do pop up because the universe and whatever just sees it. Oh, you're right, well, that's it, you're connected now, that's it. Doesn't just mean emotional connection. No.
So if you do perform binding spells with people's consent and things don't work out, release yourself.
You just have to do a release. Do a release.
Don't want that person pitching up 10 years later at your work as your boss. How awful would that be?
That would be awful. Yeah. But that seemed awfully specific. Did that happen?
Suspiciously specific. No, it didn't. I just thought I was trying to think of an example where this would be really bad, and that was one that came to mind. Now I'm thinking of Friends and wondering if Janice had bound herself to Chandler for a while because she just kept popping up.
She did. She must have done. Yeah.
And then it was released.
Yeah. Poor Chandler.
Anyway. All right. Okay. So generally, I think it's as usual with these kind of things. It's the intention behind it. It's what you're trying to achieve. It's the potential impacts on other people.
Yeah.
It's more about consent. What do I want? What are my statements? What am I trying to do? I'm not using it to circumvent processes. I'm not using it for everyday practices like Willow. Just, I don't want to do the dishes, so I will use magic to make someone else do it. Are you kidding me?
I would love to do that. But yeah,
that's not ethical.
That borders on manipulation.
Exactly.
Just leave the chores undone.
So when I'm walking around and I suddenly have an urge to do the washing up, is that because you've done some kind of spell?
Could be. Could be.
Could you take away my urge to eat all of the chocolate?
Oh yeah, you could bind yourself.
I am bound to chocolate.
I mean, you could bind and banish that craving within you. Yeah, but like we've just said, it doesn't take away from the actual hard work of having willpower and wanting to do the work. And just take your chocolate example. You could flip it that instead of not eating chocolate, which is probably where you are in your headspace, just give you the motivation to exercise more so that the eating of the chocolate isn't detrimental, if that makes sense.
It does.
Unless you're worrying about catching the diabetes, so, and then I can't help you with that.
But that goes back to the shortcut thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
In pop culture, in this circumstance, I would do a spell that just takes away my craving for chocolate. Shortcut. Whereas actually in real life, you would probably do exactly what you just said. A spell or something to give you the willpower to exercise more. So you're actually putting in the effort. You still have to work for it. It's not a shortcut.
Yeah.
You can't just click your fingers and no longer want chocolate.
Exactly.
More's the pity because I don't like running.
No one likes running. I've not met anyone who likes running. Anyway. So I think that magic for personal gain, I think it can be practiced for that what I would call mundane stuff. So it's not just about the, career thing and the other stuff. I think it can be for basic needs as well.
Well, yeah, everything we do pretty much is for personal gain in some respect, isn't it?
Yeah. Just people who aren't magically minded, they're just walking around existing and they're worrying about where does the bread come from, where does the money come from. you know, how do I clothe myself? You know, just basic stuff. And we're all like that. That's just humans.
Can I afford that Lego set I want?
Oh, God, first world problems.
Exactly. So we've got to reach out to everyone here. God. Make sure everyone feels included.
Sure. I might have put that further up the Maslow hierarchy of needs. No, but yeah, it is all relative.
Yeah.
You might put Lego way down at the bottom, along with bread and
air,
gas and
water.
Yeah, fine. But that's what I think. I think absolutely magic for personal gain. It can help you with all of those basic needs, and then build up your confidence for the kind of next level, and build up your, even just how can I be kinder to others, how can I be more spiritually minded. It's all for yourself. It's all about the I statements. I don't agree that if you cast magic for, oh, can I protect my house, and somehow that comes back on you 3 times, I'm not really a believer of that.
How would that even work?
Exactly.
I get 3 houses that I need to protect. No, that would be terrible.
Yeah, but you know, magic doesn't necessarily mean the rules are all the same, and that's fine. That's fine. No one can really agree on spiritual rules generally across all major religions.
Yeah.
So
And
why would magic be any different?
It's a personal thing. You have personal approaches to it.
Yeah.
Like everything. Well, going back to that woodworking example, your style of woodworking, how you make things may be different to someone else. You've learned the basics, but actually you develop your own style through your years of practice and expertise as you develop more and more.
Yeah, it is the kind of a personal expression of how you want things to be. Yeah.
Right. And as you said, it's another tool. It's like education, learning different things, learning a language, learning a skill, learning a trade. It's another thing like that. It's not a shortcut. But, you know, think about your intentions. Think about your use of it to influence your own journey, other people's journeys, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Cool.
Don't use it for megalomaniacal purposes.
Like in Marvel with the Darkhold.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
I think there's a whole other episode on Wanda, because that...
Oh, look where you went. I went to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
No, because I've been thinking about this, because there's lots of memes about Wanda and how, you know, I break the rules and I'm a villain, you Doctor Strange, you break the rules and you're a hero, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem fair.
It's not fair.
No. And the thing what they don't really, I don't think they get into properly. They kind of do a little bit with WandaVision, the TV show, but this is just a woman who's dealing with grief, and no one is looking out for her. She's having a psychological breakdown.
Yeah.
It's not that magic is evil. It's not that she is evil. She's just fundamentally cracking, and no one seems to give a shit. So.
I know. Well, they all knew each other from work, so they were all work colleagues.
Yeah.
So is
Where's
that
the duty of care?
Well, there isn't one.
Exactly.
There's no HR.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Captain America's gonna get some, so no one cares anymore.
No, and so the band just breaks up, and they all go about their own. You know, that's how it is at the end of any project.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Effectively, it's like a company, isn't it? The company has fallen over at the end. You know, all the CEOs have gone off in different directions or passed on. You know, that sort of thing. Poor old Falcon's left there with no money. No one's paying him. Trying to get loans for his boat or whatever it was in Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Who's the Falcon? I've forgotten. I've had a mental thing where I don't know who you're talking about.
Literally the guy with the metal wings.
Oh, the bird guy.
Yeah,
Yes.
the bird guy. Hence the name falcon.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, so the bird guy.
So in his TV show, we see there's the question of how do Avengers even get paid? And it's like, well, Tony Stark's not here anymore, so no one's getting nothing. But anyway, so yes, they've all gone. There's no duty of care anymore. She's left alone to deal with the grief of having had to kill her partner, then watch him come back to life and be killed again. And then, she just collapses and there's no... So that isn't... What she's doing is actually a kind of a mental breakdown. It's not using magic for personal gain. It's psychological collapse. Yeah. Anyway. Welcome to my Marvel podcast.
Yes, exactly.
All right. So we've said, I think we've reached a fairly natural conclusion that magic for personal gain is just like anything else. Everything we do pretty much is for personal gain. There's
reading books.
Exactly. Not
learning stuff.
Not everything is done with, or not much is done with truly altruistic intentions. We are constantly looking to improve ourselves for personal reasons. We're looking to improve our financial standing or be able to, even if it's to be able to help other people, that sort of thing. And magic is just another tool, another means to help you on that journey. It's not a shortcut. It's a way of working. It is a trade.
It is a trade.
And you can get a kind of degree in it through Magenta School of Magick.
Oh my God. That's not true.
It's not a degree.
There's no, you just do some courses and homework but it's not a degree.
Do people get certificates at the end of that?
They do.
Well, you get a certificate then.
You get
that's all you get from flipping work-based courses, isn't it?
Yeah.
Get sent on a management training course. All you get at the end of it is a certificate.
Like in primary school where you turn up for sports day and you get well done, you ran in that race. Like a participation. No. No,
I didn't get it. You didn't win it. You didn't get nothing.
Oh, it's harsh.
I'm not too old for that whole. You turned up. You get the same as everybody else just for being here.
Just for existing.
Yeah. Back in my day, it was you win or get out.
Well, there are no coming first, second, third at the.
No, but you have to do the work.
Yeah, you do have to do the work.
You can't just say, right, I've paid for my course, can I have a certificate? It's like, no, can you do your modules, please? Can you actually do some work?
Sure, yes. Why did we even start talking about this, the certificate thing?
Because we're saying that magic is a trade.
It's a trade. It's a trade. You do the work.
You do the work. It's not a shortcut.
Certificate. That's true.
It's fine. Personal gain. With correct intentions and correct...
use your I statements.
I statements, exactly.
Yeah.
It's all right. We can do that.
Yeah.
It's not what Hollywood says it is. It's not evil.
It's not evil. It's not a shortcut. Yeah. And it's all for personal gain. That's what we're all here for, ultimately, on this planet, scrabbling around. We're all here for, ultimately, personal reasons.
Exactly. Good stuff.
That's it. That's our show. So that's it. That's our show. If you liked it, give us a rating and review. Share with others. Tell your friends. You'll find all our contact stuff over at magentaschoolofmagick.com, including our social media and links to the Magic School itself. At some point, we're going to have to weave in getting people to go to the website to click the links and read and look at it.
You could do a thing now. Do a little post-credit sting. If you'd like to learn more about using magic for personal gain or binding spells, that sort of thing, articles are available at magentaschoolofmagick.com. Fill your boots.
Or your shoes and slippers.
Oh my god! Do we now have to list every type of footwear? Just so we're not non-discriminatory.
Yeah.
Or your Crocs.
Skechers. Your Adidas. Adidas. How do you say it?
I don't care. I'm just going to leave you for the next hour just Googling and listing out every shoe.
Doc Martens.
Nikes, New Balance, high tech for those of you of a certain generation.
Converse.
Pumas, exactly.
Plimsolls.
Quite. Now
there was a sturdy shoe. It was not a sturdy shoe.
Dunlop green stripes. All right, I've finished now.